Welcome back to the channel, one and all. It is time for a patch drop. That's right, we just got the notes drop for Season 11's update preview, 14.04963. That's a lot of numbers. But this should be coming probably later this month. So we've got some new shiny things. Apparently, there's a new game mode in store. We've got balances to civs, possibility at Pro Scouts being changed again, deer shoves very much on the agenda. We're going to dive into it, though. So there's obvious fluff coming in about nice, pretty things, trade secrets, coats of arms, etc. We don't care about that. We care about the nitty and gritty. For a start, new map pool. Boulder Bay is gone for Archipelago. 4 Lakes for Canal is hype. I'm so excited for this. We wanted to bring Canal back to the Midweek Musters, but it got neglected, ignored. Now people have to pay attention. High View for Altai is wild. If you guys remember Altai, it's been a very, very long time. People kind of got sick of this because of the choke point, slow nature of the game, but intrigued to see it revisited. And then we're going to be seeing Relic River replaced by Rocky River. I think that's okay because Relic River, if you guys didn't know, is a little bit bugged when it comes to default spawns, to the point that EGC even created their own version of the map to fix that. And then finally, Lipany for Hillendale. I think with Lipany's bug spawns, I kind of welcome Hillendale. I'll be sick of it within a week. Let me know what you think of that. And then in terms of team games, I don't speak as much to these. Hedge Maze is going to be hilarious to see, though. I might actually want to cast some team games because of that. But AI aside, the really big thing we're going to be looking for here, few changes. So first of all, the Wolf Den, this is an interesting one. I just didn't talk about much on the broadcast because I liked seeing people fail. Wolf Dens, the new point of interest, if you attack them from the back, they weren't actually taking torch damage. So some people were screwing themselves over. That has now been fixed. In terms of elsewhere, though, we have got the deer changes. This is interesting. So Scouts will continue moving when the automatic drop-off target is changed. That's fine. It just fixes them bugging out sometimes if something's missing. But the deer flee distance has been reduced from 2.5 to 1.5 tiles when startled by nearby military units. So what does this mean? It means it's going to take substantially longer to deer shove. It's not impossible, and I'm kind of okay with that. If you ignore deer shoving that long, you should get punished. But now it means you're going to be waiting almost twice as long to get deer home because they're not going to run as far off. And military units now need to be within 1 tile to start a deer, down from 1.75. This is actually, in some ways, a buff to the push because now you have to get substantially closer. It means you can get your angle a little bit better to make sure you're shoving the correct direction instead of accidentally pushing them the wrong way. And then on top of that, deer flee cooldown increased from 1 to... Okay, that is... Okay, I was not expecting this. So that, we said it's going to take double the time. It's actually going to take about triple the time. 14 to 20 seconds is ridiculously huge. So all of a sudden, you're going to take 3x the time. I think Dark Age Spear Racks Rush openings is going to be dead. Maybe the one exception is Japan, maybe Ottomans as well. This is ridiculous. I think this achieved what you needed. This is just going to kill the strategy entirely. So hope the devs are planning to add more points of interest. Otherwise, Dark Age is back to being redundant. And that's interesting. So defeated units that have a larger sight radius will no longer briefly reveal everything in a large circle, but will appropriately follow the same visibility rules. Okay. Oh, because when you get shot at range, it reveals it through the stealth forest, and it will show other things it wasn't meant to. But yeah, this change is huge. Japan, I think, is going to be nerfed. Japan benefited the most from the Dark Age Rush because it fixed a lot of their food issues in the early game. Now that is gone, we might be seeing Japanese return to a painful point. They still do have the Yumi strategies, though, which are quite strong. So I wouldn't completely discredit Japan, but probably went down a ranking in the tier list. Civ-specific changes, though. Bootcamp cost reduced. Kind of not surprised. So with Abbas's, bootcamp hasn't been as much of a high priority early on. Fresh food stuff discount increase is crazy as well. And then we also have the description tags correct. For those who didn't know, this refers to the fact that the trade caravanners were taking bonus damage from spears. That's now been fixed, so they won't get killed almost immediately anymore. But with the Abbasids, I'm not surprised to see some tweaks and buffs. I don't think this is fundamentally going to change too much. Abbasids has definitely been slept on a bit, but they are quite weak. English, by comparison, I think is maybe the more slept on at the moment. But with the deer shove nerfs, maybe Abbasids comes back in because Abbasids is one of the type of civs that didn't really want to do spearman openings. Outside that, we have got Byzantine's Explorator's reward for defeating workers has been increased. Interesting change. That's a 50% buff to the economical return on a tech that wasn't really being used until the late game. Now, in the late game, when gold is drying up, this became buffed. I think their intent is to buff it in the early game. This is likely not going to be enough straight away, but situationally viable. If the Deer Shove has been amply nerfed and you now follow up by nerfing Pro Scouts next time, that's when Explorators will be strong. Interesting tip, by the way, for people who want to use this tech. It's for Horsemen. It gives +2 damage, and when you kill workers, you get gold. That applies to both traders and pilgrims as well. So if you've been struggling against Knights Templar and they keep getting the gold trickle in with pilgrims, this is actually a cool way of answering that problem. You can snipe out the pilgrims easily and get paid for it. And they also fixed an issue which prevented players from placing the cistern near an ally or enemy cistern, which is kind of comical to think about. We never see that because we cast 1v1s, and also we don't allow mirrors. But I do love the idea of like a close spawn map, multi-Byzantine players, and they're just molding over it, arguing over the space. China, we have got a buff to Fire Lancers, charge damage to be expected. Fire Lancers are still the #1 cause of watching China somehow go from winning a late game to losing a late game. And extra materials technology repair rate has been increased. Extra materials is the one where it auto repairs, right? Yeah, there you go. So Stonewall towers, outposts, etc. will repair nearby wall segments automatically. Yeah, I don't mind that getting buffed. It just wasn't really being used much. It's very situational. It's maybe seen a little bit toxic. I don't know about lower rank games. And higher rank games, it didn't really matter. We have got a buff towards the English, though. Pretty substantial one, actually, guys. They get an overall buff of 5% per age to their farm gathering rate, which is pretty cozy. This Civ has been like struggling a little bit recently. The farm transition is still one of their #1 plays. I think this, in conjunction with probably a change in map design where we see less deer on every single map, English will just spike back into play. We have also got an HRE gathering rate nerf. I can't believe it. It finally happened. It's been a long time coming, but HRE have received an entire 5%. Okay, no, let's not trivialize it. 5% is actually quite noteworthy here. It needed to happen, to be honest with you guys. Like, HRE's gathering rate is still too good. We have a video that's probably going to end up on the YouTube channel about a game where I highlight that HRE is not overpowered, but they need to be nerfed. The way that this Civ plays is very oppressive. They have full tempo control. They're not completely uncounterable. They're just overall too quick to adjust to any threats, and a big part of that has been their gathering rate. And villagers will drop off resources when finishing buildings, landmarks, etc. That act as drop-off locations. Interesting, that was a problem before, has now been fixed. And that's all around the Archon. Now, Japan, this is interesting. Japanese tech tree now includes their barracks discount bonus. That's just like a text change. But there's no buffs here to Japan after nerfing the Deer Shove entirely, right? No. It's just indication fixes and drop-off locations. So that clearly, after what's been happening in Japan, the developers don't want to rush to actually buff them after nerfing the one strat they had, because they now need to let things lie and see if Japanese are good enough. Because quite often, you'll see civs get buffed in games like this, then they'll get ignored for a long time. And it's not because they're like bad, it's because people just haven't actually had time to test and adjust a build. I've seen this so many times over the years in competitive esports games where you keep buffing and buffing and buffing, and then suddenly everyone's playing it and it's completely broken. So I actually kind of like that they haven't rushed to alter something else, because you have to remember, Japanese weren't really being picked at first when the discount came into Yumi. Then the Deer Shove meta arrived, then they got picked a lot, and now they've been about Yumi. So I think Japan will still be okay, just definitely down the rankings by 1 or 2 on the ladder. Malians, we have got javelin placements, attack speed being reduced, they attack faster. Honestly, no surprise here. The defensive landmark in Age 2 just never gets gotten. It's very situational. This might at least encourage people to engage with it a little bit. But the Mansa Javelin has been nerfed. I think we can all agree this is one of the most toxic strategies in Age of Empires 4 right now. It may not win, but that's what makes it even more frustrating. The effort it takes to either execute it or overcome it felt a little bit too much for a one-unit composition. So now Javelin is moving a little bit slower. The clear intent from the developers is to allow things like cavalry compositions to counterplay well. Before, you really couldn't because the kite speed was too good. Hello, Mongol Changes coming in. The Khaganate Palace has been nerfed. Big surprise there. I am not shocked by this at all. This had to happen. Like, the Khaganate Palace has been dominating. It's the only strategy the Mongols have. I'm assuming there's going to be some other buffs down the line, and we're going to get into that. We even see, yeah, improved techs are getting some slight buffs. But the thing with Mongols right now is it's nice to have them being able to win games, but they only win one way, and that way is quite campy and quite oppressive. And it's proven a bit too effective on certain maps like Four Lakes, where these opening aggro plays buy the room you need to go into Imperial. So really overall good change. I think Mongols, outside of that, it's just bug fixes, right? Nothing too crazy here. I think Mongols are going to see not too much drastically change. The fast Imperial strategy is still going to be viable. The execution of fast Imperial succeeding has been less about the reach into Imperial and more about the approach, right? Or should I say, it's been less about the arrival and more about the reach, actually. Getting into Imperial is a challenge, and they haven't really nerfed the way you do that yet. So you expect to see a lot more Mongol players still rushing Imperial. Ottomans. I'm hyped. Imperial Council. They've changed it. Yo, this is sick. Ottomans, a civ already on the rise, might be about to go up the tiers again. Imperial Council changes. Meta drums now spawns 2 metas instead of the 1. That's the tech that gives you the extra movement speed as well in your meta. Akinji system now spawns 3 Akinji at the town center. That's kind of crazy. Akinji are balanced by the fact that they are a tier 2 unlock. You guys might recall this unit here. It is, of course, the horse archer that shoots twice. Inferior unit that could, on paper, be very OP, very powerful, but never scales quick enough. 3 might allow a tempo point that's worth it. We have extensive fortifications now also discounts town centers. Hold on. Did they just turn Ottomans into mini Abbasids? That's kind of crazy. And then Pax Ottomana, bonus production speed isn't being increased. Pax Ottomana is the one that increases your production speed for several minutes on TCs. This, in conjunction with extensive fortifications, now offers a new build order route for Ottomans. So this is very interesting. They're not providing the full flexibility you're used to seeing for Ottos, but they're providing a new path. Because so far, Ottomans has been all about going military schools, scaling military schools, continue. Now, there's a different route you might actually consider with this civ. I'm excited to see if that works out, but it has come at a cost, and that cost is going to be nerfs to the Janissaries. This had to happen, guys. I think we can agree, going into the Age 4, Janissary plus Sipahi is too good. So you have to nerf something, and I actually like that they chose to nerf the Janis a bit instead of the Sipahi. Because with that dynamic in mind, like, Siege is less impactful at the moment, so I like that they nerfed the thing that would be countered by Siege, i.e. Mangonels, and allows the Sipahi to still have their unique identifier point. Alright, so Rus, High Trade House Aura has been reduced! We done it! Yes! Yes! Die, Rus! They're still going to be strong. So, High Trade House Aura being reduced, this is interesting. I think Rus are overall... They're probably going to lose maybe on average 20 gold, but that's still going to be a really powerful play. Like, you get 35 gold from the deer per minute, and you get, like, minimum now 80 gold in most cases. I'd still say it's worth doing High Trade House, but this is a step in the right direction. I really want to see Rus enabled to go more to Abbey of Trinity, because that's a lot of unique techs you never see anymore. Outside that, Iabids. Structural reinforcement ability granted by Siege Carpentry no longer has an activation cost. That is a huge change. Guys, if you haven't seen this, Siege Carpentry is an interesting one. It allows you to make your siege temporarily super tanky. The big problem with Siege Carpentry, though, is it costs a lot. So look at the cost there. It's 500 resources, takes a minute and a half, and it gave you melee armor and fire armor. So, Siege Carpentry was a really interesting idea. It basically means that, like, horseman backstabs won't kill you with the 20 melee armor. But in reality, felt really weak. It's 500 resources, takes a minute and a half to research, and it has, I think it's a 90-second or 70-second cooldown. And it's global. If you use it on one siege weapon, it applies to all of them. So, wasn't very good. I like this change. I think overall this helps a lot because the activation cost was 50 wood per. It just made it not even worth considering. So, they're trying to be careful because if you overbuff this, it's going to make Tower of the Sultans broken. 20 melee armor on a Tower of the Sultan would make it unkillable. All right, the big one, Lancaster. Oh my god. Look what we got here. So, Lords of Lancaster. Ranged and melee armor now improved by 1 in Castle and 2 in Imperial. I like this change. I think Lords of Lancaster was a really powerful play in Feudal. It had no real scalability other than the aura. And the problem with the aura is, like, as you scale into the next stage, you don't get this extra armor. You're a very easy target to snipe down to remove that 5% scaling. So that's a nice change. We actually might see them getting produced because quite often currently with the Abbey of Kings builds, people don't remax the Lords of Lancaster in the late game. Hobilars are buffed? Okay, and nerfed. So damage bonus reduced. No surprise. The Hobilar bonus damage was crazy, guys. The first strike in a fight could be higher than a fully upgraded French knight. It was way too good. It wasn't reduced, it was increased? No. It's reduced. So reduced means they attack quicker. So this is a pretty nice little change. I like the idea that trying to make Hobilars about more frequent attacks because it's lower. I'd say overall this is like a buff, because Hobilars have become less situational about that one big charge strike and more about the consistency of attacking. Demi-Lancers reduced in health is no surprise. Demi-Lancers, I've been calling this the pay to win button. They really have been dominating. Their ability to vomit out suddenly off a mana spam is too good. Yeoman getting their damage reduced is a pretty big deal in Imperial. All of a sudden, this Civ that has infinite food and wood might need to think outside the box. All right. Condensed land practices. So overall, like, just nerfs to the manas. I like this. I think this needed to happen. I still think that the Lancaster Castle overall is too good. It enables way too much defensive play and way too many possibilities past that. So is this going to be enough to nerf Lancaster? I think fundamentally the mana system at its core needs to be changed. It's way too defensively aligned and way too easy, but this is definitely a step in the right direction. Lancaster, which currently feels like an 80% win rate Civ and competitive, it's probably going to go down a little bit, but still be pretty dominant. Ships of the Crown, also, this had to be nerfed. I'm surprised it's only a range reduction. My advice would be this is still not enough. On water maps, Ships of the Crown with the Admiralty is way too good. Before this nerf, they were at 12 tile range, which could outrange everything. Now they're, I believe, 11 tile range, which will still outrange culverins. You can't snipe them. So this hasn't really changed much about water. If Lancaster gets to late game, you're still up Craps Creek without a paddle. Finally, Lancaster villages now have a buff indicating their wool industry sheep gather rate. I don't like the buff. I think they mean the mini buff indicator, not the glow. I hope it's not the glow, because sometimes the glow just is really confusing. And wait, why do they have structural reinforcements ability? I'm pretty sure that's an Ibid thing. That must be... All right, guys. Apparently, we're missing Jeanne d'Arc's changes. Because those right there are Ibid changes. Last time I checked, she doesn't have camels as traders. And also doesn't have the siege carpentry ability. So, Jeanne is a mystery. I think we're being baited, guys. I think Jeanne has some other changes, and we're just not privy to them. It's secret. All right, let's continue down. We've got Knights Hospitalier. Interesting. Look at this. We've got buffs. Knights Templar. Hospitalier might now be good. They've increased work and movement speed by 10%. This is pretty cool for builds that don't involve much wood. French commandery discount and production speed no longer applied to naval units was a change that had to happen. It was way too strong. I don't think the Hospitalier change is good enough. I think archers are still the backbone because your eco is way too good around wood. But this is a step in the right direction. French commandery just feels still overall way too reliable. Genitors, though, they have been changed. Line of sight has been increased to accommodate its better attack range. Genitors are still not going to get used, guys. Genitors, the problem with this javelin throwing horseback unit is that its attack point is too bad for microing. High-level players won't use it because it feels bad to use. Sometimes feeling matters more than just stats alone. And that's what's keeping people away from both the axe throwers and the javelin throwers. Schlachter cavalry have been nerfed. Only a little bit. This is still going to be a dominant pick. I think if you look at Knights Templar overall, these changes haven't fundamentally altered too much. Knights Templar, we fixed the crash. I remember seeing that. When you'd age up, sometimes you crash. But overall, with Knights Templar, they still function very well as a civ in the early game off of archers. Any map that has water, they're going to be a nuisance. And then, of course, in the late game, in the Imperial Age, you know, the commanderies are just still overall good. The Schlachter cavalry doesn't really matter much. I want to actually say all of their choices now in Imperial are some of the best in the game. It used to be that the Venetian one kind of sucked, but ever since the buffs, it's been looking good. And then finally, closing us out, Order of the Dragon, Golden Caress damage reduction has been changed. The hit point threshold has been reduced. This is confusing for some people watching, because if you've looked at Order of the Dragon in competitive, they haven't been performing well. I can tell you why this change was made, though. It wasn't a change targeted at high-level play. This is an example of devs slightly altering a unit type based on lower-level play. Order of the Dragon do okay at high level, but they dominate at low level. And when you look at the replays, most games are just men-at-arms spam. So I think this is actually a strategic choice by the developers to maintain user enjoyment of the game. Because if people don't enjoy, they stop playing. If they stop playing, you don't have a game, you don't have customers, you don't have an ecosystem anymore. It just dies. So the men-at-arms spam was just a little bit too good against people who didn't know how to solve it. Even if you knew how to solve it, the way that most people micro at the low level wasn't acceptable against men-at-arms all in. So overall, a reasonable nerf. I think one that had to happen. It's not going to hurt high level too much because men-at-arms cheesing hasn't really been seen often anyway. It's super situational. This just helps ensure people who are low rank don't just feel lost. Because let's be totally real, a Gilded Men-at-Arms having more health than like a Castle Age Knight in Feudal Age is crazy. But guys, that's going to be it. That's our roundup of the patch notes. Overall, from a design standpoint, I don't think too much is going to change. House of Lancaster ranks down a little bit. Japanese and Ottomans, those are going to be the main changes here. Ottomans in particular are going to see a big booster upwards, even after the Deer Shelf lame. Japanese, on the other hand, are maybe in the gutter. We'll have to see if the Yumi is reliable enough to carry them forward. And then finally, the changes around Lancaster, we're definitely going to see some alterations. I think you're going to see maybe less House of Lancaster castle builds, and maybe a few more Abbey of Kings, which definitely has a lot of underexplored volatility about it. But that's me for the video. If you guys like what you've seen here, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you've got notifications on, and be sure to share this video around. And let me know what you think is going to be the new busted meta going into the next patch, whenever it drops in the coming weeks. And I'll see you in the next video.